June 9th, 2008, Atlanta. A delivery driver named Marcus Williams pulled into a gas station and saw the price. For $1.11 per gallon, the highest he'd ever seen. He did the math in his head. Filling his tank would cost more than he'd earned that entire day. Making deliveries, he sat in his truck trying to decide whether to fill up or go home, whether his job was even worth keeping anymore. That was at $4. Now imagine 20. You think $20 gas is impossible, that it could never happen in America. But gas hit $9 in parts of California recently. It reached $15 in some European countries. The trajectory is clear, the mechanisms are in place, and I'm going to show you exactly how $20 gas doesn't just change your commute, it destroys your entire way of life, your job, your freedom, your ability to participate in the economy. Drop a comment right now telling me how far you live from work. And hit that subscribe button, because this channel shows you the economic catastrophes that are coming, not the comfortable lies. Let me walk you through what your life looks like when gas hits $20 per gallon. You wake up and immediately calculate whether you can afford to drive to work today. Your commute costs $40 round trip, you work 8 hours. After taxes, you net maybe $120. A third of your daily income gone just getting to work. Suddenly that job in the suburbs doesn't make financial sense anymore. Your first decision is whether to keep your job or find something closer. But everyone else is making the same calculation simultaneously. Jobs near residential areas are flooded with applications. Employers know they have leverage. They cut wages because people are desperate to avoid the commute. You're trapped between a job you can't afford to drive to and local jobs that do, and pay enough to live on. The grocery store becomes a luxury. You used to drive 10 minutes to the supermarket with the good prices. Now that trip costs $8 in gas. You start shopping at the expensive corner store within walking distance, your food budget doubles. You're paying more for lower quality. Because you can't afford the gas to reach better options, this is how $20 gas compounds. It's not just the fuel cost, it's every economic decision that follows. Your social life evaporates, dinner with friends across town not happening, visiting family an hour away, maybe once a month instead of every weekend. That hobby you love that requires driving, you give it up, your world physically shrinks. The geography of your life contracts to a radius you can afford to travel. America becomes a nation of isolated islands. People trapped in their neighborhoods by the cost of escape. Let me take you back to the 1970s oil crisis. Gas lines stretched for blocks. Stations ran dry. People waited hours just to fill their tanks. But the price only hit the equivalent of $5 in today's money. At $20, the psychology is completely different. It's not scarcity causing lines, it's affordability causing paralysis. People simply stop driving except for absolute necessities. Your job might disappear entirely. The service economy depends on cheap transportation. Restaurants need customers who can afford to drive there. Retail stores need shoppers who don't spend their entire budget on gas. Entertainment venues need audiences willing to travel when gas hits $20. Discretionary travel stops. Businesses that depend on foot traffic close, jobs vanish. Unemployment spikes. The delivery economy dies immediately. Amazon can't afford to deliver packages. UPS and FedEx raise prices so high that shipping costs more than the products. Food delivery becomes a luxury. Only the wealthy can afford. Suddenly you're not just trapped at home. You're trapped without access to the convenience infrastructure that defined modern life. You're functionally living in the 1950s without the 1950s community structures that made that work. Here's what happened in Sri Lanka in 2022. Fuel shortages and price spikes shut down the country. Schools closed because teachers couldn't afford to commute. Hospitals ran out of medicine because trucks couldn't afford deliveries. The government collapsed. This wasn't some abstract economic theory. This was a modern nation brought to its knees by energy costs, and they didn't even hit $20 per gallon. They just couldn't get fuel at any price. Your home loses value overnight. Houses in the suburbs, far from city centers, far from jobs, become worthless. Nobody wants a 2-hour commute at $20 per gallon. The real estate market inverts. Downtown apartments that were expensive become even more expensive. Suburban McMansions become traps their owners can't escape. You're stuck in a house you can't sell in a location you can't afford to leave. The food supply chain breaks, trucks move everything in America. Food from farms to processing plants to distribution centers to stores. When diesel hits $20 per gallon, trucking companies go bankrupt. The ones that survive pass costs to consumers. Food prices don't just rise, they explode. A gallon of milk costs $15 because the transportation cost exceeds the production cost. Grocery bills triple while your ability to earn money collapses. Your freedom becomes a function of wealth. The rich can still afford to drive. They can still access opportunities across the city, across the state, across the country. But middle class and poor people become geographically imprisoned, unable to afford mobility. This is how $20 gas creates a new feudalism, a society where physical movement is a luxury, where the wealthy are mobile and everyone else is stuck. The political consequences are explosive. Governments that preside over $20 gas don't survive. Revolutions start over fuel prices. We've seen it throughout history. The Arab Spring began with food and fuel price protests. The Yellow Vest movement in France was triggered by gas taxes. When people can't afford to live their lives, when their movement is restricted by economics, they revolt. Let me show you the math that makes this inevitable. America consumes 20 million barrels of oil per day. We produce 13 million. We import the difference when global supply tightens. When Middle East conflicts disrupt production, when OPEC cuts output, when refinery capacity shrinks, prices spike, and they spike fast. We went from $2 gas to $4 gas in months. The jump from $4 to $20 could happen even faster in a real crisis. Your electric car doesn't save you. The grid can't handle everyone charging simultaneously. Electricity prices spike with demand charging your EV costs as much as gas used to cost. Plus you're stuck with a car that can only travel to 100 miles before needing hours too. Recharge. You traded one dependency for another, and the new one is even more limiting. Here's what the prepared understand. $20 gas isn't about fuel, it's about mobility. Freedom, access to opportunity. The people who position themselves before this happens buy homes within walking distance of work. They build income streams that don't require commuting. They create local networks that don't depend on long-distance travel. They understand that cheap energy was an anomaly, not a permanent condition. The suburbs were built on the assumption of cheap gas forever. That assumption is dying. When gas hits $20, suburban sprawl becomes suburban abandonment. Strip malls become ghost towns. Commuter highways become empty monuments to a world that no longer exists. The entire geography of America reorganizes around the cost of movement. Your children will ask you what it was like when you could just drive anywhere you wanted, when a tank of gas didn't cost for $100, when mobility was a right instead of a luxury. And you'll struggle to explain how we built an entire civilization around cheap energy, without any backup plan for when it ran out or became unaffordable. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and share this video with everyone. Who thinks gas prices don't matter, because the next video will show you exactly how to restructure your life before $20 gas destroys it, where to live, how to work, what investments survive the energy crisis, and how to maintain freedom when movement becomes expensive. This isn't fear-mongering. This is physics, economics, and history converging into inevitable crisis.